The next speaker, Uwe Buecheler, is a Senior Vice President of Biopharmaceuticals at Boehringer Ingelheim. His presentation from transactional to strategic collaborations in biopharmaceutical manufacturing. Uwe.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, and it's a great pleasure for me to speak to you about our views and our perspective on how collaborations in the contract manufacturing space over the years develop, and happy to share also, in addition to some views from my side, then also entertain some questions and answers. So let me maybe first of all start with a summary, what I wanted to kind of forward during my presentation. So we are in the biopharmaceutical manufacturing environment, and this is a highly dynamic and constantly growing marketplace. So there's a huge demand out for biopharmaceutical products, and with that there are very attractive growth rates we are seeing in the marketplace, but also then for increasing number of new therapies, ultimately for patients. There's a lot of innovation out, and there's a lot of business opportunity for pharmaceutical companies, but also for contract manufacturers partnering or serving originator companies. The market growth is very dynamic, and the challenge from the manufacturing standpoint is to cope with the dynamic and to meet the requirements. So a little bit of different elements of dynamic. As you know, in drug development, one very important element is the element of new biological entity success in developing and in also in registration. In addition to the natural development compound, there is also an element of unknown clinical dose and also unknown therapeutic dose at the end, which adds, from a manufacturing perspective, in addition to a potential attrition rate of molecules, adds a complexity of unknown volume and a huge range of possible needs with respect to capacities. So a lot of companies decide to outsource or manufacture in-house, but an outsourcing partner has the opportunity to balance the risk for an pharmaceutical developer, generating a win-win situation. So there's an element of productivity increase, which increases the volatility further, and as you all know, the whole healthcare system has a lot of pressure with respect to cost and affordability of medicine, and with biopharmaceuticals we are, from a cost of goods standpoint, on the higher end of the cost of goods. So therefore it is quite a significant pressure on cost of goods, where a possible response to that is economy of scale and operational excellence. So there's a high unmet need, so a lot of new molecules approaching. Also from a global perspective, there's a lot of markets, especially in the emerging market environment, that are not yet sufficiently served with products, which adds additional dynamics. So overall there's a huge bundle of influences that generate an uncertainty for a new biological entity developer with respect to future demands to supply the patients worldwide. Now, looking at the pipeline is a approach for us as a developer in the biosimilars, biopharmaceuticals, but also in the contract manufacturing space, is very important, because we have to try to have the right technology to serve the market needs. So if you look at the pipeline, it is very obvious that the dominating technology remains, and this is a view on the clinical stages, the registration, but also the commercial side, there is a dominating technology is the cell culture technology. There are microbial products around, but the microbial products don't base on a single platform technology. Typically it's pretty heterogeneous because there are from inclusion bodies to soluble, there are secretion systems, yeast, E. coli, so it's a huge diversity. It's not as for the cell culture products where a lot of products can be run on a pretty similar manufacturing platform. So a major area of interest for a contract manufacturing organization in the space is mammalian cell culture. So what is the driver for companies to outsource? We talked about the dynamics of the market, the dynamics of drug development. So what does companies motivate to look for an outsourcing partner? So I think the classical reason for looking for an outsourcing partner is that in-house capacities are not available to the extent needed to supply a product. So this motivation is to avoid investment and use the synergy at a contract manufacturer who runs plants, who has the experience of operational excellence at the plant, and use that to manufacture the product and reduce the overall volatility and risk for their own development. Another element is that some companies outsource because a certain capability is not available in-house. So a reason for outsourcing might be a certain technology, a certain production capability that is not available at a company, and that might propose to go into outsourcing. A very important consideration for drug manufacturers is that there is insurance of continuous supply of drugs to the patients, uninterrupted supplies to the patients. So a element that is important for companies is to establish a redundancy and contingency to the supply. So for blockbuster products, the intention of a lot of companies is to have dual sourcing to avoid drug shortage in a very competitive market, and also at all times during a drug life cycle to make sure the drug can be made available. Another motivation for companies is that with a life cycle of a drug, certain drugs get in a later stage of life cycle where new drugs approaching, and certain pharmaceutical companies consider to outsource products at a later stage of the life cycle, using and converting the capacities into for their newly approaching products. I think cost control and cost for manufacturing of products is an issue, and the synergy of not having the fixed cost of a fully owned plant for a single product can be avoided by sourcing the right amount under a given capacity frame at a contract manufacturer. And I come further to the topic of strategic collaboration and partnership, which might be an additional element for outsourcing considerations. So if we look at the two ends of the scale of a contract manufacturing relationship, on one hand, we have the more transactional collaboration, where a company has a certain service, a certain product, and looks for an outsourcing partner for that service. On the other end of the scale is the more strategic relationship, not so much dependent on a single product, a single service, but having a broader picture, a whole portfolio of services and and collaboration elements, generating additional benefits for both partners. On the transactional, main driver is the cost and maybe the headcount management of a company, its capacity optimization, or the lack of know-how. In the more, I would say, in the more emerging area of partnerships, of more strategic partnerships, companies might collaborate with models where one partner is focusing on one part of the value chain, where other partners are focusing on other parts of the value chain. And there are companies around that focus on a more virtual supply chain, working with various contract manufacturing, focusing on the more R&D and maybe the marketing side without running own plants, and leave this to the companies excellent in the operation of facilities. This comes back to let's say, focusing on the core competencies and not trying to be involved in the entire value chain. It is a possibility in a more strategic partnership to share investment risk and to manage the risk of different products, because if you're collaborating on a portfolio of products, increasing amount of one product can compensate decreasing amount of other products, and in an overall portfolio, this can make a lot of sense for both parties, for the sponsor as well as for the contract manufacturer. So, if we look at the models and how they develop, this is just now from another angle. There is the strategic element of up to co-investment, long-term collaboration, building also a, let's say, interface, a collaboration spirit between the companies, build up the trust, and then at the end of the day, let's say the collaboration goes beyond a single company's interest, forming a real partnership, and where completely both partners, let's say, can rely on each other, where both sides of the partnership benefit and concentrate on their core competencies. Already was referring to the more transactional piece, which is in a lot of cases single products. It's cost for manufacturing, trying to optimize cost, reduce cost, and it is only a distinct time period until the product is no longer needed, where in a strategic partnership this might go over a lot of years and might build on a whole portfolio of products for the collaboration. So what are the key success factors for a contract manufacturer? I think in general, but more specifically, if a contract manufacturer wants to become a strategic partner of a pharmaceutical entrepreneur, is at the top of our list of the key success factors is definitely the regulatory compliance and the high quality standards. So if the CMO operates a licensed factory, and by adding a product or by adding a service of a customer is just that it can build on the multi-product license, it is a significantly reduced risk for the partner, because the partner can concentrate on getting the product approved and does not have to worry about getting approval for a facility or even a multi-product facility with additional requirements. So regulatory compliance and quality standards is absolutely key for a contract manufacturer, and in our company, in order to not stand still. So we do have the multi-product license back since 96 for our factories. In order to not stand still, we continuously work on improving our quality standards and systems and the robustness. We have initiated a quality culture initiative to really get the quality mindset into each and every employee, because it's clear that it's not just a question of the quality assurance department. It's a question of each and every employee, whether it's been the warehouse, in the manufacturing area, testing area, or in other areas up to management. And it has to be an initiative where the management has a key role in rolling out such quality culture initiative. The partners, if of strategic nature, very much rely on each other. So the contract manufacturer has to ensure reliable supply of the product at the appropriate and agreed upon quality and customer service level. With respect to not standing still, another element is in the technology. You cannot stand still in the technology environment, so you have to update your technologies, your systems, your processes. And just to give you an example, we have decided to completely move out of the classical clean room for aseptic filling into isolator technology. That's associated with quite heavy investment. But in order to comply with the sterility assurance requirements of the current regulatory expectations, it is something that is more or less unavoidable. And you have to keep up to date with the technology, otherwise you will get into a dead-end street and probably lose the business over time. It is probably perceived as a slight contradiction if flexibility and economy of scale is named in one statement, but this is what our collaboration partners expect, that we bring the operational excellence and the flexibility to operate the product and also to decrease volumes or take on new processes that are, and this is another special feature, not of a standardized nature, but that are individual, because companies come with a variety of processes to us. We don't have the luxury of a captive use developer that can develop a process onto one platform and then execute the platform. So we have to be flexible and take on processes as other companies have developed and transfer, scale up, and then supply out of these processes. And we have to be, that's absolutely clear, we have to be cost competitive and also competitive with respect to timelines, which in the current demand situation is quite a challenge. So a few words about Boehringer Ingelheim. So we have been in the space of biopharmaceuticals we started out back into the 60s with interferon research. As you know, we are part of a fully integrated pharma company. We are the largest privately owned pharma company, and we started out with interferon research. We had built our first manufacturing operations in Germany and Austria back in the 80s. We decided to move into strategic contract manufacturing in 98, and from there on you see that we have built, based on that decision, we have built additional plants in the various technologies, cell culture, but also microbial. We decided to establish a brand for the contract manufacturing business. We acquired another cell culture facility in Fremont in California because we were not present in the United States. And very recently we started the GMP production at our factory in Shanghai, because we think China will be a very important market for us in the future. And we are the first multinational pharma company bringing state-of-the-art cell culture technology to China, which is a strategic intent of our company. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of uncertainty around that. Therefore, we decided to do that step with disposables technology, where our core large-scale operations is in stainless steel, where we have more than 1 to 2 metric ton of therapeutic protein output per year. So in our history of more than 20 years of contract manufacturing, we have taken on a lot of products. So we are manufacturing commercial products for Boehringer Ingelheim, like Actelize for the treatment of stroke. But we also manufacture quite a number of products under contract manufacturing, and we supported the supply to patients for those products. So our operation network consists of primarily 3 technologies. This is, as I mentioned earlier, the most important technology at the moment, where most products are around, where most demand is out, is cell culture technology. Here we operate large 12,000, 15,000 liter bioreactors at our site in Germany, but also at our site in San Francisco. On the microbial side, we run a very flexible plant in Austria, where we do a lot of products. I mentioned earlier that products in the microbial field don't fit to one platform technology. They use very different technologies. So the microbial side has optimized that, running various technologies and various strains of production organisms at a scale of 6,000 liter, but we also operate smaller scale because some of the products are pretty efficacious and very low doses are sufficient to treat patients. Our aseptic center, for where we do the aseptic processing, I mentioned earlier, we moved from the classic clean room to the isolator technology. We operate at the moment 6 aseptic plants where we do all kinds of dosage forms, starting with liquid vials, lyo, but also cartridges, double chamber cartridges, syringes, and also we are entering into the device area because for a lot of products this becomes a very relevant addition to the aseptic piece of the parenteral. So with that we can cover, with that network and with that global footprint from US to China, Europe, we can cover all the demands that are needed with respect to active ingredient manufacturing, but also parenteral manufacturing. And I should maybe mention that from the aseptic standpoint, we are adding aseptic suites in the US and in China to be able from each site to deliver the entire process chain if required by the customer or for Boehringer. Our China operation consists of 2 steps. We've established the first footprint in our existing pharma site in Shanghai, which is the so-called biolab. It's based on disposables technology in order to reduce the fixed cost for the fixed assets for the plant. We decided to not go with stainless steel. On the midterm, which is then planned to be in operation 2017, we are working in collaboration with the technology park on building, we call it Oasis, which is our launch and commercial factory, which is based on 2,000 liter disposables bioreactors. Because based on our considerations with the current products we're working on, this should be an appropriate scale for initial footprint into China. As I mentioned earlier, that Oasis plant then will also, in addition to the cell culture operation, also host a aseptic isolator suite for vials and syringes. Our initial intent was to partner with a local aseptic manufacturer in China, but we did not find the right partner for that, so we decided to build the entire process chain. So we're looking to get that in operation, as I mentioned, in 2017. Okay, with that I want to kind of summarize. I tried to give you a little bit of an impression of our thoughts on the various collaboration models between a contract manufacturing organization and a pharmaceutical company, and hope to have given you a little bit of a flavor of the pros and cons. We see a clear trend towards more strategic partnerships, which have a longer breadth and also have a win-win, generate a win-win situation for both partners. And again, so with the experience that our company can bring in that field, with the multi-product operations licensed on a global basis, we think we can add a lot of value to such partnerships. And I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions if any. Thank you very much.